Well, real quick, Nate, I'm just going to have the guys just go ahead, just go around, boys. Just give them your name, where you're from, what year you are. I know most all you guys know Nate, but just for everybody that's watching, just real quick, we'll start with Mike. Just name and where you're from and what year you are.
All right, I'm Michael Penix, a quarterback from Tampa, Florida, and I'm going into my junior year now. Well, redshirt sophomore.
Go ahead, Jack.
Name's Jack Tuttle, San Marcos, California. Nate knows all about the California grind, man. Going into my redshirt sophomore year.
Nice.
How you doing? I'm Dex. Dexter Williams. I'm from Georgia. I'm a quarterback. I early enrolled, but I'll be going into my freshman season this year.
Good job by everybody making sure you clarify that you do play quarterback on the quarterback Zoom. So I appreciate you doing that. So real quick, just Nate, just for everybody, just tell a little bit about, where you're from, where you grew up, just general information, just kind of about your childhood.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Northern California, born in Santa Clara, and then went to high school in Modesto. And I played at Modesto Christian High School and loved playing ball there. And then, I went from there to Indiana, spent 4 awesome years there, 3.5 years there, and then got drafted to Washington Redskins, was there for a little over a year, and then been in Philly for the last, going on to my 5th year total in the league, but 4th year in Philly. So,
Awesome.
Yeah,
So let's go back just a little bit, Nate. So you're growing up, you're a kid. Tell us a little bit about when you first started playing football. How'd you get introduced to it? What kind of drew you to the sport? I know you got some siblings, so just kind of tell us a little bit about your football journey as a kid.
Yeah, for sure. So I got 2 older brothers that are twins. They're 4.5 years older than me, and I think it's one of the biggest blessings I had in my life because I always, in my mind, I thought I was their age, and whatever they were doing, I was trying to do. And they were really great athletes. One played tight end in the league for a while. The other played receiver at Brown University. So, they both were really talented. They were really better high school players than I were. They were, all state. They were big time. But, I always had that itch. I wanted to be better than them. First, I wanted to, get to their level. But I always knew I wanted to be better than them. But there were so many competitions with them. But I grew up loving football because that's what they were into, and whatever they were into, I was into. But I also really loved basketball. Basketball was really more my first love. And then kind of in high school, my brothers were legends. They had already gone off to college. And I was like, man, I'm going to just do basketball. And then I played football my freshman year. I was the JV quarterback, and I just fell in love with it, and I was hooked. And from that point on, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go as far as I can in football because there was nothing like playing quarterback to me. And it's worked out pretty well. But just having those older brothers to look up to and guys that I really wanted to be like, and they were great examples for me. And, they really brought me along too. They could have just shooed me away as the little bro, but they kind of kept me coming. And, they were hard on me and they'd pick on me, but got me tougher and definitely developed my trash talk for sure being around them. But it was a lot of fun.
How about I think all of us had different stories about playing football when we were younger. I know my first year of tackle football, I was the center. I was the smallest and youngest, and I was the only kid in the program that knew how to snap. Were you always a quarterback? Did you always always been your path?
Yeah, that's funny you say that. My first year playing, I was in 3rd grade, and this might be why I picked basketball at a young age. They put me at left guard. Coach's son was the quarterback, and I knew I wanted to play quarterback because, they got to throw the ball, and I like to have the ball in my hand. Coach's son was quarterback, so that really frustrated me. I was really a better, outside linebacker through grade school, middle school, even, into freshman year of high school. But I knew I wanted to play quarterback, but I really started playing quarterback, I think 4th grade was the first time I played a little bit, and then kind of 8th grade on, I was really serious about it.
I can remember playing Pop Warner my second year. So I'm the center my first year. My second year, I come back, and they gave out jersey numbers the first day of practice. So they just assumed that I was going to be a lineman. They gave me number 78, and then when we switched positions, I went and played quarterback. So my second year, I was the starting quarterback. I was number 78. I got picked.
That's hilarious. Yeah, they gave me number 80, so I was all right with that because it was Jerry Rice. But I was still anytime we'd be like in warm-ups and I'd see a ball, I'd throw it to the coach to like show, hey, I can throw. But he was never giving me a look. It was his son all the way. So still a little bitter about it.
When did you realize that, you know what, I got a shot here to be pretty good, that this is something that I love to do, and, you know, God's blessed me with enough ability to kind of, you know, pursue it? At what point did you kind of realize that?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, as a kid, I was that naive. I wouldn't say arrogant, but I was a naive kid that you would ask me in 3rd grade, 4th grade, what are you going to be? I've been like, I'm going to be a pro athlete. And they'd be like, whoa, oh, come on, you know the stats. I was like, no, I just don't know if it's going to be football or basketball yet, but I'm going to be a pro athlete. Like, I was matter-of-factly. I think a little bit of that naivety, like, helped me in the long run. But looking back, it's like, man, what is this 4th grade kid talking about? It sounds so arrogant, but that was just my mindset. There was no other option. I mean, I wanted to get good grades in school and do all this stuff to be a good player. I wanted to be a good basketball and football player. And but then to really, where I really kind of like was like, whoa, I can really throw the ball pretty well or make plays as a quarterback. I mean, a couple times in middle school, I'd make some throws, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And, you know, there's no reading coverage. You're just out there playing, you know, running around. But really, I'd say like my junior year of high school, I had a couple games where I was throwing around the yard, and I was like, all right, I legitimately think that I should be getting recruited here soon. And then kind of got recruited a little bit late, but really midway through high school, I realized that, you know, it was a legitimate possibility to go to college.
How about I'll ask the other guys just to kind of share their story a little bit. So, Mike, you know, when was the first time that you realized that, you know, this is something that I'd like to pursue and I'm passionate about, and you have enough ability to do it?
Well, it started my sophomore year. Really, like my freshman year, I was on the varsity team, but I didn't get to play. Like I was like behind the quarterback that year. I got like a few snaps, but like my sophomore year is whenever I realized, like, that's when I started getting like some buzz and people like talking about it. But like I never really like saw it at that young of an age. But as I continued to grow and like I just felt the game start getting slower, and I just feel like I was able to dominate. And at that time, I was just like, okay, I'm starting to feel pretty confident. I just want to continue to get better. So I just started working harder every day to try to get to where I want to be.
Nice.
Jack? Go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
No, I was just making sure. My sophomore year in high school, yeah.
Yeah. Jack, how about you?
Probably around like 5th or 6th grade was when kind of like I was like, okay, I think I want to do this. I like what you said. Like, I want to do this. This is so much fun for the rest of my life. But my first couple of years playing football, it's kind of a similar story to yours, Nate. There was a grandpa. The grandpa was the head coach, and his grandson wanted to be a quarterback, so he ended up playing quarterback. I was right tackle my first year.
Yeah,
playing quarterback. So.
Yeah, it's not the same.
It's not the same, man. So, you know, at least I learned gap on over ball, kind of
no
stuff. But 5th or 6th grade.
Down backer.
Yeah, exactly right. Dexter, how about you? When did you start realizing that this was something you loved and wanted to kind of see how far it would take you?
Well, I realized it was something that I really loved. In 8th grade, before then, I had not played quarterback. I mean, a little bit in like rec ball. But 8th grade, we had a really successful season. I was our starter. And then going into 9th grade, I didn't really get any snaps. I played later in the season. I started my 10th grade year, but I really still was not that good. But 11th grade year, I really popped off, and then got a couple offers at the end of 11th grade year, and then had a really good senior season. So really kind of recently, 11th and 12th grade is when I really realized I could really be a good player.
I like it. It's
Awesome. So take us just a little bit, Nate. So you're from California. You know, you come to Big Ten country. You know, everyone's got a different journey and a different story, you know, in the recruiting process and you know, deciding where you want to go to school. And I know, you know, there were some ups and downs for you, I'm sure, in the recruiting process, some different changes on staff. So just kind of talk about a little bit, you know, what made you choose IU, kind of how that process went. And, you know, when you came on your visit, just kind of what made you fall in love and say that, you know, this is where I want to spend my next years of college.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I was obviously being born and raised, growing up in California, I was a Pac-10 guy at the time. You know, it was all about the Pac-10, Pac-12 now. I wanted to just play, you know, for Stanford or USC or Oregon. That's all I really knew. And so after my junior season, fortunately I had a coach who had a relationship with like a graduate assistant at Arizona. And he was like, hey, just take a look at this guy's film. Cause I was like, hey, can you get my name out there? We were a really small school. Like we had like 25 players on my team. And so he sent it to the guy and he liked it. So Arizona ended up being my first offer. And so I was thrilled. Like that was Pac-10. My family could see me play. Like, man, this is what I want to do. I was going to play for Mike Stoops. And then I was set on that and had a really, really good way better senior season than I had my junior season. So other teams came in, but I was honoring my commitment. And but then Stoops got fired, you know, towards the end of my senior season, and Rich Rodriguez came in. I liked Rich Rodriguez, but I mean, I wasn't really trying to do the zone read 24/7. I wanted to, you know, throw darts from the pocket. So I kind of reevaluated, and so the offensive coordinator who recruited me to Arizona was Seth Luttrell, who's now at North Texas. He became the offensive coordinator at Indiana, and I had a couple other, like Arizona State came in and offered after, but it was like going from Indiana to Purdue. I couldn't really do that, you know. And then I had a couple Mountain West schools, a couple schools here and there, a couple Ivy League schools, and then Indiana offered with the offensive coordinator going there. And to be honest, I didn't know much about Indiana. I knew the Big Ten Conference. I had heard of Antoine Randall, but I was like, you know what? I have 5 free official visits. I'll go see my coach. I like the coach, and I want to go visit. And as soon as I got there, I fell in love with it. I mean, it's Big Ten country is different than, I mean, there's nothing like that on the West Coast. Even those big schools in the Pac-12, like it's like the cities don't shut down for the game like they do in the Big Ten, which I just fell in love with that. And I saw an opportunity to compete, to play at a pretty young age, and I just wanted to get on the field. And I just kind of prayed about it a lot, and I felt a lot of peace with going to Indiana, and I just thought it was a great adventure for me to kind of get outside my comfort zone and kind of become my own man. Because I know if I would have been close for college, it would have been nice at times having family nearby, but I would have kind of relied on them in some ways. But there were a lot of growing up moments I had to do at Indiana that I think have really helped me to this day. But yeah, again, fell in love with the campus, got to know some of the guys on the team, and just fell in love with it. And I just wanted to be a part of, you know, helping the program improve. And I knew that I could make a big impact on it. And, you know, obviously we weren't able to get quite to where I wanted to go, but, you know, we definitely improved, and you guys are definitely picking up where that was and taking it even higher, which is awesome to see. But it was really, you know, it was a great decision, and, you know, some of the best years of my life for sure.
Awesome. So I real quick, funny story, Mike Penix and even Jack, you know, one of the things I tell kids, Nate, just from warmer climates, you know, we are the southernmost Big Ten school. So
no doubt. They told me that when I was getting recruited, and it's true.
I mean, it is the truth. We're the southernmost Big Ten school. So Penix, just for everybody real quick, do you remember your first couple weeks? Mike was a mid-year rookie. Mike, do you remember your first couple weeks on campus here in Bloomington?
Yeah, it was the opposite. Like, you was telling me, yo, it's southernmost Big Ten. I was like, okay. Like, as soon as I got here, it was like -10, like snow.
It was the coldest winter, I think, in the history of Bloomington.
It was bad.
And you had already signed, so you were locked in, bro. You can't get out of it.
No going back.
But I think to your point, Nate, you know, it's you know, all the guys on here, you know, are far away from home. You know, I think it speaks to Indiana, certainly, you know, the town of Bloomington. But a credit to you guys too for having the courage. You know, it's hard when you're a young kid to say, you know, I'm going to go a plane ride away from home. But I think obviously it's been beneficial for you, and it's good to hear that story. So just real, you know, we'll kind of talk just a little bit about your career. And I think these guys know, but I just want to make sure, you know, I don't want to forget anything, but, you know, you're the career leader in passing yards, you know, most career passing, most yards in a single season passing. most career touchdown passes, all those things. And I think people look at the finished product and think that that's how it was your whole time here. But just take us a little bit, and we'll kind of go year by year. So you come in as a freshman, you get to play, which obviously I'm sure you were excited about. Just kind of take us through that process. You're coming from a smaller high school, you're coming into the Big Ten as a true freshman, and you get a chance to get on the field. Just kind of talk to us a little bit about what that was like for you.
Yeah, it was a big transition for sure. I mean, like I said, my school we had like 25 players my senior year, and our biggest crowd was a couple hundred. And the first game I played in, we're playing at Gillette Stadium as a true freshman. I was the third string quarterback. We had Trey Roberson, who was a great player, who's now in the NFL as a DB, and Cam Kaufman. They were both really good players. They'd been there longer, and I had just shown up really for camp. And Trey was having a great season, was playing well, and he broke his leg in that game against UMass. So I'm thinking, coach was like, hey, you're going to redshirt this year. We want you to get stronger, develop. I was like, a little frustrated, but I understood. Like they were further ahead than I was at that time. And then so he broke his leg, and Cam gets thrown in, and I haven't gotten a rep in weeks. And my coach comes to me at halftime. He's like, hey, you're going to play this second half. I was like, oh, and then said some things that I can't say, for all viewers. But essentially he was trying to see how tough I was, or if I was ready, or if I was going to, poop my pants. And I was definitely nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't gotten a rep. I just hope I can catch a snap and shotgun. And so I went out there, and I was 3 for 4 for 28 yards. I always remember completing my first pass on a halfback screen, like a slow screen. So I was thankful that they gave me kind of an easy one. But really the next game we played Ball State, and I was backing up Cam, and we're down 30. It was like 34-21 or something like that. We were down 13 points in the fourth quarter, and Cam gets a hit pointer. They're like, Nate, you're in. And I was like, oh shoot, let's go. And somehow the film looks terrible, but I make some weird plays. But then I make 2 touchdown passes within like 2 minutes. The second touchdown pass with like 50 seconds left to get us up by 1, just like not knowing what I'm doing, just out there finding guys open and, scrambling and doing whatever. So we get the lead by 1 point with like 50 seconds left. They end up kicking like a 55-yard field goal. Ridiculous. So it ruined my moment, but it was that moment I was like, shoot, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was out there balling. Like in my mind, I was like, man, I can do this. Like they can't stop me. Like in my mind. And then like a week or two later, we're playing against Ohio State. I get thrown in the fourth quarter, and I threw 2 touchdowns. And I mean, this is a year ago. I'm playing in front of 200 people. And so I was kind of just thrown into that, but kind of getting thrown in the fire was good. Although sometimes I wish I could have redshirted to just let my body develop and learn the game. There were some good elements to getting thrown into the fire and just having to ball out and just do what you have to do to make plays and win games and learn. And so I was able to actually have a pretty successful true freshman season, ended up having like 7 touchdowns to 1 interception, played in like 9 out of the 12 games. Never got to start, but there were many games I went in the first quarter for the rest of the game. I don't know. My coach at the time wasn't a huge fan of starting true freshmen. So, but I get it at the same time. But freshman year was definitely a huge learning experience, but had a lot of fun. And then big 3-man competition going into year 2. And, we didn't know who was starting till literally like going out of the tunnel of game 1. And I found out I was backing up. So I was really upset. And then Trey goes in. I mean, he was a great player, really great player. He goes in, plays well, kind of gets dinged up. I go and throw 4 touchdowns. I'm like, yeah, now it's my job. Let's go. And then he started the next game. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. What I got to do? I go in like the second drive, throw 4 touchdowns. And I was like, all right, finally. And then I start the next game. And then I finally got, some ways to go. But definitely started pretty hot sophomore year, then dipped. We played like Michigan State. They had the #1 defense in the country. And I mean, I was like 12 for 35, like trying to throw go balls because they had some edge rushers that were getting there. And I don't think I hit a go ball all game. And that was really frustrating. But definitely, and then I threw a pick against Michigan in the fourth quarter when, we had a chance to kind of come back into the game. So that went at their place in front of 100,000 people. So that I felt really small at that point. And then so the sophomore season kind of ended not very great. But then both the guys transferred, and then I was kind of given the job my junior year, and then
So let me ask you. So you get in there freshman year, you get a chance to get some experience. I think, and if I'm wrong on any of this, just correct me. So sophomore year, you get a chance to start like 8 games. Does that sound right? And then play in all.
Yeah.
So
Played
you're
all of them. Yeah, started I think 8 or 9. Yeah.
You know, and played well. I know you said you have moments, which I think all young quarterbacks in the Big Ten they have. Which I think that's kind of why I mentioned that at the beginning. Despite all the the great things that you did, I mean, there's still there's growing pains. You're learning, you're growing, you're kind of through ups and downs. So you get ready. You're going to be the full-time starter as a junior. You're ready to rock and roll. I'm sure you had a great off season, great camp, and you get going, and then you get hurt. Just kind of talk a little bit about just the disappointment, how you responded. Because I know, and Michael can speak too. Michael's had some injuries. Just kind of talk a little bit about that and what that was like for you, and maybe how that kind of shaped you, maybe mentally or whatever lessons you experienced.
No, that's a great point. Yeah. So junior year, I mean, it was a devastating injury. I tore my left shoulder and immediate surgery like 2 days later and out for the season. It was devastating because I felt like I fought so hard to earn that job. And we had just beaten Missouri, who was a ranked team at Missouri. Like we felt like we kind of had some things going, and we had some good pieces to, obviously, make a bowl game and get to 6+ wins and more. And so that was devastating for sure. But I feel like I definitely grew a lot from that. I mean, I would take back the injury if I could. But there were a lot of things that I think developed because of that. And I was able to make the most of it because it's always been kind of easy for me to lead when the ball's in my hand. Like it's easy. You're in the huddle. Like everyone's going to listen. Obviously not many huddles nowadays, but even on the sideline, all this stuff, when you're the one out making the plays and you tell somebody what to do, or, hey, I need you here, it's easy, but it's a lot harder to be a leader without the ball in your hands. When you're on the sideline, just doing your thing, kind of a little bit separated when you're injured because you got all these treatment hours and you can't practice. So that was really frustrating, but I was able to develop leadership skills a lot without the ball in my hand that have really helped me in my future, with my career going forward, because, you're really forced to dive into those relationships more, and you're forced to, work on other parts of your game that you can't do, whether it's film study or, things like that, which I don't know if I would have developed as well without the injury forcing me to. But it definitely was devastating. But I mean, the fire inside was, a furnace to get back and to, play like my hair was on fire after that, and felt the sense of urgency. Because you realize, I mean, in college, every year you're like, oh, I still got a couple of years left. But then it starts happening fast. You're like, oh, shoot, I got a season left. Are you kidding me? Like, I've had some games, but I haven't done what I know I can do. So again, it gives you that sense of urgency. So I would tell you guys that, don't like press and be like, oh my gosh, my career is wasting away. But at the same time, don't be like, it's a fine line with also sense of urgency every day to be the player you want to be and to keep getting to that level. Because if you just are too patient, you won't necessarily get that opportunity, or you won't be ready. But if you're just going crazy and, being negative, then that's not going to help you either. But that's kind of a tough tightrope to walk, but it's important to walk it.
So I think those are great points. I think, that's the one of the many reasons why, Nate, I think so many people respect you, is that it hasn't always been just as smooth a road. You look back at the record books and the numbers, and you just assume that it was always just a smooth path. But, you've had your ups and downs. So you're going into your senior year, a little bit of a lighter note. So summer of your senior season, okay, where is Nate Sudfeld going to grab a bite to eat in Bloomington, Indiana during the summer?
Oh, wow. Man.
Because you're going to because it's all quarantine right now. So all these guys are like, they're thinking in their head right now.
I mean, I've always been a Chipotle fan, but the local spots, I always loved Bub's Burgers. I always loved Buffalo's. Man, I don't want to leave any out because I had some relationship with some of the guys. But man, chocolate mousse was good. Shoot. I mean, the C-store sandwiches were actually really good. I don't know if y'all still got those, the C-store sandwiches.
Anybody been to those?
You got your points for them.
No,
we used to.
I never got the sandwiches from there. I never got. They used to sell wings on like Fridays, so I used to get the wings. The wings are good.
Okay.
They sell wings in Briscoe.
There. They didn't have those there when I was there.
Jack, what's your favorite place to eat in Bloomington?
I think probably, I don't know, I like that social cantina place is great. I like Buffalo's too. I gotta go with man. I hit Chipotle a lot. That's a big one.
Dexter, are you a Qdoba guy?
I don't even know what that big word was, Coach.
Where's your favorite place, Dex?
The C-store, those refrigerated wings, like
Okay.
like the ones that you can put in the fridge, in the microwave. Yeah.
Refrigerated. Did we catch that?
Yeah.
Microwavable. Refrigerated. Okay.
Refrigeratable.
Microwavable.
Where's your favorite spot?
I'll probably say BJ's. Just a variety. You know, I like to try something.
I don't know if BJ's around, Nate, when you were here. It's over by the mall.
Heck no.
Yeah. I like BJ's.
How about Nate? Who did you room with going into your senior year? Who were your roommates?
I had 4 roommates. I had Nick Mangieri, who was a DN. I had Sean Heffern, who was another DN. I had Andrew Wilson, who was a running back, and I had Garrett Welch, who was a safety. We had a big squad.
Gotcha.
So it was a good time.
Most was it just the last year, or were those guys your roommates for your whole time?
So my freshman year in the dorms, it was me, Nick Mangieri, Sean Heffern, and Anthony Casaro, and those were a lot of my really good friends. Yeah. And then kind of just switched up a little bit sophomore year, and then kind of back with everyone junior, senior year.
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah. So you're going in, and just so you know, and the guys know this, you know, in our first unit meeting, talk about the 2015 season, your senior year. You know, in our first unit meeting, we put up, a couple of numbers, and I don't want to make sure I remember, but 475, I think that was the points you guys scored that season, which is time in school history, and then 6,556 yards, which was the most in school history. So, you know, we put that up to the group this year, you know, as just kind of a goal, you know, trying to beat what you guys were able to accomplish on the field, which obviously was a historic season. A lot of great, you know, players, a lot of great, you know, coaching going on that year. Just kind of talk a little bit about that year, what you remember, you know, some great moments. I know it was special and some that you're able to keep with you forever, but you guys earned it. And obviously, you know, we talked a little bit about just the adversity it took to get there, but just kind of talk about the 2015 season, obviously historic, you know, from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, we were 6 and 7. We ended up being, because we lost the bowl game. But, you know, we did put up a lot of yards. I think we were the number 1 offense in the Big Ten, but it never felt like success. Even though we put up big numbers, we always just felt like, man, we're not even playing as good as we can. We're leaving so many plays out there, which I think is a good mindset. You know, it's never enough, but at the same time, I don't know, we just weren't able to put it together. But some of the great memories of that, like, I mean, playing with some of my friends, like, I mean, Jordan Howard and I got really, really close, and, you know, we roomed together in Philly this last year for part of the year. And like, he's a special dude and he was a special player. We, like you said, we definitely had some special players on that team. Some guys in the trenches too, like Dan Feeney, Jason Spriggs. Like, we had some guys, and what was cool is some of our better players were some of our like best leaders too, which I think is important. Cause, you know, guys definitely listen more when you're out there performing. And so, you know, use that platform and take advantage of it, but don't abuse it at the same time. But yeah, I mean, there were some games that were fun. I mean, the Michigan game, I mean, more games are frustrating to think about because we missed the field goal at the end of the bowl game. We should have won that one. We lost in double overtime to Michigan. I mean, there were some games we put up yards, but I don't know. I mean, beating Purdue was cool, but we should beat Purdue every year in my mind. I don't know. It was a great season, but you look back kind of more on the locker room and the camaraderie with the guys. Then you look at the stats or there were some cool plays. Like I remember there were some plays with like Mitchell Page, who was my slot receiver, where like we just kind of had this, we'd see the field the same way. And that was pretty special where, he'd run a middle read route and a linebacker would be, closing in and he'd wrap around and I'd see where he's about to go and put it where he's going to get to. And just that connection was so much fun and something I always cherish for sure.
Awesome. Well, I just want to open it up just for the questions for you. We'll let Mike go ahead and Jack and Dexter. Any questions for Nate? I know that, like I said, I think they have a couple questions for you.
For sure.
Yeah, I have two. I had just thought of one question. You mentioned your trash talk earlier, like not too long ago, and like you mentioned it last time, like we talked, and you always got like a big smile on your face when you said it, so like I could tell you confident in it. Like if it's appropriate, like what's some things you say? Cause I might need to spill some ideas.
Yeah, dude, that's I don't know if my mom ever watched this, she probably wouldn't be so happy. And I like to think I'm a pretty good dude, but I mean, sometimes in the heat of the battle, things just come out, and I keep it pretty, PG rated, I'd say. But I don't know, it's kind of hard to I don't necessarily have go-tos. And I don't always start it, but I don't know, there's just like energy and I just like it's like joy, I don't know. And if there'll be times like some guy will hit me and he'll like say something about, oh, get there quicker. Like, I don't know. And then I see a lot of like NFL guys, I'd see them talk trash and I'd try to take some of that too, or like pregame speeches or something. I remember like Ben Roethlisberger said, he's like, this is playoff football. If you don't know what that is, find somebody who does and ride with them. And I always thought that was so cool. But I don't know, man, to give you examples, it's hard to do. But if I'm ever mic'd up in the NFL, you'll definitely hear it then.
All right.
Did you have one other question, Mike?
Oh yeah. So a question like, what's your why? What keeps you motivated every year to come out and continue to just work hard and go all out?
Yeah, man. So a couple things. I mean, first of all, just my faith. I feel like, and I've said it before to people, and I just, it's probably the number one reason is I have a lot of faith in, the Lord Jesus Christ, and I always want to, do what I feel, do my best for him. And, one of my big goals is whenever I pass on and I pass away, so I go to heaven and God's like, man, you used everything I gave you. Like you utilized all the talents I gave you. You worked as hard as you could. Like, I'm proud. Like I want to say that I did everything I could with what I was given. And then another why, like my family, I just want to make them proud, and they're proud regardless. If I never threw a pass, if I did another job, if I worked construction or whatever, they'd be proud. But, when they're at games or watching on TV, I just, I want to make them super proud where they can tell their friends and stuff like that. And then I've said before so I've been able to go to Africa a few times and seeing kids who don't have, much opportunity, and being able to give back a couple times to Uganda. And when I see them not have opportunity, I'm like, man, I have the responsibility with the great opportunities I have to make the most of them. And so that gets me going too. Because instead of saying like, how did I get so lucky? Like, why me? And just like drag my feet. I'm like, man, I am so lucky. So it is me. So I got to go be the best I can be.
Awesome. Jack?
I got a question about personal goal setting. How do you think it's changed for you? How do you think it did change for you as you developed in college and then now in the pros?
Yeah, I've always been a goal setter. I mean, it was funny. I was going through some things a couple weeks ago in my old storage. And I was, I think, a sophomore in high school now, where you see yourself in 10 years. I was like, well, I'll have 2 Super Bowl titles. Throw this many yards. I'll be this, whatever. And then I think I also had some basketball goals too, in case I went to the NBA. But Yeah, dude, they just kind of, I don't know. I definitely dream very big. But I've kind of gotten away a little bit from material goals of like, all right, win an MVP by this, or win, be this. It's kind of more personal goals of, well, first, like my process and how I get my body stronger, how I get my body healthier, how I improve, my emotional, my mental shape, how I handle criticism, how I handle pressure. And I try to like be really proactive on all these different fronts. And that's what I love about quarterbacking is like, it challenges you in every way. It challenges you emotionally, spiritually, physically, like quickness of feet, quickness of mind, strength to withstand, toughness, like all this stuff. So I just kind of have a broad thing of goals that I really try to keep locked in on. But I've kind of gotten away a little bit of just those, specific, and I have some of them, but specific, like, I don't say I want to throw 8 touchdowns this game like I used to, because those were kind of selfish goals.
Appreciate you answering on. I got one more if that's all right, Coach.
Yeah.
What are 1 or 2 things that you just like really like think you're successful at and you can always rely on in tough moments or whatever part of the game or just in life?
Yeah. That's a good question. Like when it comes to the game, it kind of goes against coaching a lot because, coaches are usually like, hey, get a completion play, just plug it in the flat. And like, I'm getting better at doing that. But in my mind, a completion play is throwing a go ball or a post. Like I like to throw the deep ball and I think I throw it really well. But anytime I have pressed man to man, I'm like, unless he drops it, there's a touchdown. Like every play, like I'm just, let's go. So that's always given me a ton of confidence, but I don't know what else. I also think, I don't know, just growing up in the environment I did and having all the friends and the people I've been around and the experience I've gotten, I think just developing relationships on the side is something I really enjoy doing. I don't know if I'm as good at it as I could be, but just like getting to know guys personally, and then it helps you on the field for sure, but then you come away with so much more like fruitfulness of like the relationship and in your life, and just connecting with those guys in that way. So I'd say just kind of, being able to communicate and develop relationships with all the guys.
Gotcha. Appreciate it.
For sure.
Go ahead, Dex.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 questions. One of them I can relate to you on. You said it earlier, you came from a smaller school. Like, what were some of the challenges, coming in as a freshman, coming to a bigger school, like from college ball from high school to college ball? Like, how did that change?
Yeah, so it was tough for sure. There were definitely challenging aspects, but more of it was exciting to me because being on such a small team, I always felt like in high school, like I was one of the few that really cared. And I was like, man, why don't they care as much as I do? Did it freeze?
No, you're good. I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, man, why don't they care as much as I do? And then kind of going to college, and everyone was, working, and everybody had goals, and everybody wanted to be a great player. That kind of inspired me. I was like, oh man, I got like guys to ride with me that want to do this too. Like, man, that was exciting for me. But definitely, our locker room was about as big as my school when I got into Indiana. So, it was a little crazy in the school. Obviously, there were like 40,000 people at IU. So that was kind of a transition, but I don't know. I just kind of took it in stride and realized that I belonged and just wanted to get to work. And I wanted to prove to everyone, not with talking, but I just wanted to be the hardest worker. So then when I did play, everyone knew, oh yeah, he works hard and he can play. All right, he's a guy. So
Awesome. Mike, Jack, any other? I got a couple closing ones here, but any other questions for Nate?
Yeah. How was it being a part of an organization that won a Super Bowl? Like, what was the atmosphere like, and like getting back home, like in Philly? How was that? How was everything?
it was special, man. It was it was as cool as it gets. I mean, it's the mountaintop, obviously, of our sport. I mean, in my mind, a little selfishly, I'm like, man, there were parts of it that weren't as cool because I wanted to be the one playing, and I was the backup that game. And, so it's kind of tough as the backup at times because, you want to be supportive, and I was, and it was awesome. But, you don't feel like you kind of were as involved as you want to be. But, I mean, what's crazy is, so my sophomore year in high school, we actually won the California State Championship, but I didn't play. I was the JV quarterback. I went up for varsity for the playoffs, but I didn't do anything because our starter was the quarterback. Our quarterback was a guy who ended up playing receiver at Fresno State and then went to the league as a receiver, Isaiah Burse. He was amazing. But even that, I was like, man, I didn't even get to play in this one. But what's crazy is you kind of realize, whether it was the high school championship or Super Bowl, you kind of realize that there is a formula for getting there, and like how it's players holding everyone accountable, and like there's so many more similarities than there are differences to like be a championship team. It's, again, players holding guys accountable. It's your leaders being the hardest workers and bringing guys along, and then it's like that camaraderie. And there's just nothing better than like getting on that plane after the Super Bowl win or the Super Bowl party that night, and everyone's just like, we did it, like coaches, players, like there's no other game for us to play. And our mantra that year was like, we're not done yet. We're not done yet, like all season. So it was like, man, is this ever going to end? Then we win it, and he's like, our coach is like, man, we are done. Ain't no yet. We are done. And it was just, that was pretty special to hear, because you kind of always just have this mindset. But it was cool to get there.
Awesome. Any other questions, boys? I'm gonna wrap it up here with a couple quick questions. Dex, you got one more?
Yeah. My connectivity just went out, and like my whole app froze, and I couldn't get back into messages to get the number. But my bad.
Oh, sorry, bro.
Can we get a quick check, Jack, on connectivity? Is that? Are you making up words over there, Dex?
I swear I heard this on Xbox.
Connectivity is a word.
That's a word. Was it used properly?
Yeah, I'll give it to him.
Yeah, appreciate it. See, I heard on Xbox, so I'm trying to use these big words,
Yeah, I like it, man.
Next, you got one more? Or you good? I got one quick one.
I got one.
Go ahead, Dex.
I got another one. The relationships you build in college versus the ones you built in high school. I know I just came out of high school, so I know I was really close with a lot of people, but like I want to know how that's changed for you. Like, what was the biggest difference? Because I know I've come up here and like I've met a lot of good people. Like even in our quarterback room, I really enjoyed those guys. But like, what's the biggest difference?
Yeah, well, what's crazy, I mean, from high school to college, then college and NFL, like when you're in college, it's the best of the best of high school. Like everyone was the alpha, the dog. And when you're in college to the NFL, everyone in the NFL locker room is the best of the best, So in high school, it's kind of easy because kind of people establish their roles. Like, okay, this is the really good athlete. This is, whatever. And then college, everyone's the really good athlete. But I kind of found that to be cool. And as a quarterback, you kind of just able to connect with all these guys, and you're not competing with the tight end or the receiver or the O-lineman. You're competing against the quarterbacks, but it doesn't have to be like crazy and like there doesn't have to be animosity. But like I found that it was easier for me because I connected with them on that level of, hey, I'm trying to be great. You're trying to be great too. Hey, let's be great. So like that was fun for me. Like I said, in high school, there were a lot of kids who, didn't really want to go to college or just wanted to do whatever, and that's all good and fine. But I wanted to like be great, and I wanted to go chase my dreams. So in college, to have guys like me like that, who were like that, was just, I felt like I was able to bloom in that circumstance.
Thank you. I can relate to that. I love competing with Mike and Jack and the rest of the guys.
For sure. And it's
Jack,
a process, bro.
Jack, last one here.
Yes, sir. I think you were talking about earlier. You're like, one more game. Let's work on the next game. And I think that's what we do in our program right now. we're always focused on one game at a time, one thing at a time. Let's be successful and then move on. And then eventually you do enough good things at a time, you get to the championship, and you guys did. And you said the team and the camaraderie was amazing. From your perspective, what was the most shared characteristic, and what do you think the most important characteristic is as a teammate, and the characteristic you guys all shared?
Yeah. So what was really special about that season is the selflessness. And it's easier to be selfless when you're winning. You know, it's easier for receivers not to complain that they're not getting enough touches when you're winning. So it was amazing that year because we started off the season like 9-1, ended up like 13-3. So everything was going pretty right. So even some of our really good receivers who would get like 2 catches for 25 yards, they would be all right because, hey, we won. So how are they going to complain? So winning helps a lot of things. All right. So that's number one, win. That helps a lot of issues. But yeah, I would say we were able to gain momentum from that selflessness where that became the identity of the team. And, you know, guys realized how close we were and how well we were doing. And I don't want to start whining about not getting my touches and make us start losing games. So people bought into that. And, you know, it's easy once you kind of get that thing rolling, but it's not easy to do to start. Like even the next year, we had a lot of guys returning, and I think we started out like 5-5, and there's a little bit more, hey, I need catches. And it's all good intentions because guys are like, hey, I want catches because I can help us win. But it's just challenging, and those are things you have to work through. But yeah, again, I'd say selflessness, where nobody really made it about themselves that year. It was incredible. Guys were helping other guys get sacks. You know, you see D linemen. Some guys don't want to take the double team because they want to make the tackle, but the linebacker can make the tackle. So when they're taking the double team, linebacker can do it. It's special. But when you're losing games, he's like, no, I'm going to get my, you know, contract. My contract says if I get 10 sacks, then I get $100,000 bonus. So they're going to do it. So there are some different elements in the NFL. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Appreciate
Awesome.
that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So just a couple, just thinking back to your career here at IU, Nate, just some trips down memory lane. Who was the funniest teammate you had during your career at IU? Who do you remember being had the best sense of humor, cracks the best jokes?
Yeah, man, there were a couple. No particular order. Sean Heffern, Andrew Wilson, Ralph Green III. He showed up first day. He's like, my name is Raphael Green III, and I play kicker. And the dude is like 380-pound D tackle. Just great dude, hilarious. But I'd say those are the big 3 funniest guys.
How about toughest? Who were the toughest players that you played with here at IU? Who were the toughest team?
Dan Feeney, Michael Cooper was pretty tough, tight end. I mean, T-Gray Scales was pretty darn tough. I hate to miss anybody, but
No, that's all right.
I mean, Tevin Coleman, I mean, he played on like a darn near broken foot his junior year and went for over 2,000. He was pretty tough.
Yeah. How about who was your best teammate? Who you felt like was the best teammate at IU? Not necessarily just for you. You thought, man, this guy was just one heck of a teammate.
Yeah. Let me think about that one because that's a great question. I mean, I'll say Dan Feeney. I mean, Dan Feeney was special. Like, if you're going to create alignment in the lab, mental makeup, physical, all that stuff, you want Dan Feeney. That guy was special.
Awesome. How about, okay, last one. Who is the best player that you've ever seen in person? Obviously, you've been in the NFL. So who do you think – you've seen a lot of great ones. Who do you sit there and say, this guy is just on another level?
Man, holy cow. I mean, I got to put Tom Brady up there. Julio Jones is an absolute freak show. I mean, he can do whatever he wants. But there are some guys, Trent Williams, Jason Peters I played with this last couple of years, kind of the back end of his career as a tackle, incredible. And in his prime, I'd probably say him, but from who I was playing with or have seen personally, Trent Williams, tackle, who was in Washington with me, is freaking unbelievable. I mean, dude runs like a 4.6, crazy athleticism, and stronger than anybody. And there are some defensive guys, but I generally give offensive guys credit, not defensive guys.
No doubt, no doubt. Can you just quick, I know we talked a little bit about this off air, but can you just give, you know, the IU fans just an update where you're at, what you're doing, you know, what you're doing to prepare. Like I said, I know we talked about this a little bit off air, but I know, you know, everybody here at IU would love to hear just, you know, where you're at and what you're doing.
Yeah. So going into year 5, 4th year in Philly, I was a free agent and was able to sign back in Philly for 1 more year, which I'm really excited about. I'm really looking forward for the season. Have a lot of goals. Like we said, I want to accomplish still. Don't feel like I've even come close to being able to do or show what I can really do. So trying to stay patient, but still, you know, keep that hunger. Yeah, man, just enjoying the journey. I miss my time at IU, but looking forward to getting my opportunity and never going to look back once I do. So
Can you tell everybody just where you're living right now and why you picked where you're at?
Oh, yeah. So I'm living in Bend, Oregon right now. I'm from California, obviously, like we said, but so I kind of wanted to find a home base in the time being, and Bend, Oregon is where I've been able to find it with so much family and a place where I can train really well. I've got a great guy I'm able to train with in Kevin Boss. And yeah, just enjoying it, loving family time. But through this quarantine, as you guys are, it's kind of crazy trying to get all the workouts in, have an elaborate garage training facility right now, and trying to go to the park and go to high school fields when I can, but a little bit hard during the quarantine. So, but yeah, just trying to take the positives out of right now, trying to improve in ways that I can. But as we all are, just taking a day at a time.
No doubt. Well, I appreciate it, Nate. I know I told you this last time you spoke to us. You know, you made a lot of people proud. Certainly, I know here at IU, you know, with the quarterback room, we're trying to do everything we can to make you proud. You know, not just who you were when you were here as a player, who you are as a player now, but who you are as a person. You know, you made a lot of people proud and represented us in a first-class manner. And I know, and I hope you do know that we're trying to do the same in return. So we appreciate you. We're pulling for you. We follow you, and looking forward to seeing you on the field soon.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's good to feel connected with you guys. Thanks for reaching out, and best of luck to you guys this fall. Obviously going to be following you guys very closely. Hopefully I can make it out, but you guys are in good hands, and it's going to be, just enjoy it, man. It's going to be fun.
Awesome.
Appreciate you, Nate.
Thanks, Nate.
For sure. Yeah, man. For sure.
Thanks,
Take
Nate.
care, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you.
All right. Take care.
See you, man.